What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Welcome to the Monday Morning Conversation. You're going to hear a familiar voice. No, not just me, but also the other guy. We're going to be doing some 53-man roster predictions. And if you've been following along and not long enough, you know that when we do that, you know exactly who's going to be on the show. In this case, it's Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave? How's it going?
It's going all right, Jeff. I'm once again thrilled to be here because anytime I can be on a Let's Ride, that is quite the honor for me.
Well, you know what's funny? A lot of people might say, well, didn't you guys just do this? And the answer is yes, we did. And a lot of people might also come back with, is there really any changes? And the answer is yes, there is. Like, there's actually been some significant changes. So when I was going through, and this article can be found at steelcurtainnetwork.com today, Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can find that there if you want to read it and really let yourself digest it more. That's fine. And this podcast will be embedded into that article. But man, like, there are some serious changes there. So, Dave, let's get this thing started. Let's talk about the 53-man roster prediction. We're going to start with quarterback, which is normally just a ho-hum thing. No, your TBD and my Skylar Thompson are out, and Aaron Rodgers is in. It's pretty significant, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I also had to say there that I wasn't going to just list a name last time of someone that wasn't going to be on there. The Steelers were adding another quarterback. The only question was how far up the depth chart that player would be. We knew it was coming. We assumed it was Aaron Rodgers, and then that came through. So it was you can't write Aaron Rodgers in the last time because he wasn't there, but now it's where it is. And as I always said about when it came to Will Howard was always going to be the QB3 in my eyes, regardless of who else the other guys were. That's where they want to kind of entrench him in that spot. But we talked about that on the previous last week, so we don't have to go into that too much.
I will say this. As I was writing down Aaron Rodgers in, Skylar Thompson out, the only thing that kept running through my mind is thank God it's not Kirk Cousins.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
I've
been saying that so much.
Thank goodness I'm not saying Kirk Cousins in, Skylar Thompson out. It's way better for the Steelers to have it be Aaron Rodgers, whether it pans out or not. There's just so many different layers to it. So there you have it. We have the same three quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, and Will Howard. Why Will Howard over Skylar Thompson? Because he was a drafted player. And Omar Khan, that means something. So let's go to running back. We both have the same three. Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson. Do you see any reason why they would potentially keep four, even if it's for special teams purposes?
I mean, if they do, it's because of the next category. It's possible they could. I like what they've done the last few years, and they have kept just three, but they have kept multiple running backs with the practice squad, and they've called them up if they needed to. Problem is, the two players that they had on the practice squad that they called up last year, they had them to start the year, and they've already cut them so far this year in Champlin and Ward. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know that Cordero Patterson is a candidate for the practice squad at this point in his career, but I feel that Kenneth Gainwell was an upgrade there. He's still around, but if they decided they were going to keep four because they really wanted to appease him, maybe. I know there's Trey Sermon in the mix. Yeah. But there's nothing. When they don't have pads on, it's really difficult to see any reason why I thought it wouldn't be those three running backs.
Well, there's really also no true player outside of Cordero Patterson based on his experience, not his play last year, but his experience as a returner, that you would even say, okay, we'll throw him in here, and he's also going to take care of special teams. Well, like Trey Sermon is a name that comes to mind because obviously they let Jonathan Ward go last week, and Trey Sermon was the addition after rookie minicamp. But I don't see Trey Sermon running down on kick coverage. He would to make a roster, but I just don't see him taking a spot, so we have the same three. Now let's go to fullback. Fullback, you had a change. I had no change. DJ Thomas Jones, I had him in from the start because I just felt like I feel like Arthur Smith is looking for a very versatile type player. He fits that bill. But Dave, tell me why you have him in now.
All right. The reason I have him in is this is kind of my floating final offensive spot. And I have to say that I have one left. I don't have 25 offensive players. I have 24. So technically you could even go two if you wanted to, but I wasn't willing to do two. This is kind of like my one floating spot. Fullback if you want to keep it, if you want to keep another tight end, or if you want to keep another wide receiver. Anywhere in there where I feel that someone could be someone who's stepping up in those position groups, this is the spot that's available. I didn't have it for anywhere else, and I know this is listed as fullback, but this could be also as much as a tight end as well. He does have that he does have FB next to his name on the roster. So that's why we put him here. But this is, to me, this is the last spot on the offense. And it really, if they make other moves, if they add a tight end or if they add a wide receiver or something of that nature, this is likely where that would be. So for now, because there's nothing else there, this is what I have.
It comes out, you brought it up, like versatility. This is where the Steelers can look at this position, and even in this instance, this player, this undrafted player of DJ Thomas Jones, and say, okay, is he worth a roster spot? And so, okay, can he flex to tight end? That helps bolster the tight end room. Can he potentially carry the ball? Meaning, can he actually run with the football? That might bolster and be a fourth running back. Special teams is going to be a must for any of these players on the fringe, but they might say, you know what, we don't need him. We need him on defense. We need to add, not him, but another player on defense so you can scrap this and move it over. The more I do this, and Dave, I don't know what we do this 3 years now, where we've been doing all these 53-man roster predictions.
At least, probably
at least.
More.
You realize it's like looking at a giant puzzle, and you're thinking about where you're putting all the pieces to make it fit and look the right way. I have DJ Thomas Jones in now, but after 1 week of training camp, we could both be like, yeah, that's not happening. He could be getting blown off the ball, can't catch a cold, can't do anything right. He's getting ripped to shreds by the coaching staff. But right now, heading into training camp, I have him on the team. Any other thoughts on that, Dave, before we move to wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm always trying to find a way to keep a fullback early on. I mean, I did it last year. I think I did it the year before. Yeah. Just early. So it doesn't hurt. So for now, that's what it is. And next time, we'll see what happens.
All right. Both of us have 5 wide receivers, and I think we actually ended up with the same 5. DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III, Robert Woods, and Ben Skoranek. Both of us having George Pickens removed because he was traded. Again, that happened after we did this last time. Let's just say that they're not going to make an addition, that they're not going to bring in another receiver. How comfortable are you with the Metcalf, Wilson, Austin, Woods, and Skoranek wide receiver room?
I might feel a little bit better than last year, slightly, but not a lot. It's still one of those positions that I'm like, hey, if they can add someone, do it. If you can add someone, do it. So I felt that way last year. I don't think it's enough of an improvement for this year to say that you wouldn't say the same thing.
Yeah. Now, I definitely think that it's, I don't even know. I feel like it's the same exact thing as last year.
I think DK Metcalf is an upgrade to George Pickens, but that's pretty much it.
He is, but is Robert Woods an upgrade to what they had as like that wide receiver 3, the Mike Williams eventually, the Van Jefferson role? Like, I don't know.
Possibly not, but you also didn't have a Roman Wilson either. He just
that's an unknown commodity, unfortunately. Yes. I don't know what they're going to do. I think I've said this before on multiple podcasts. I think they can be patient. I think the Steelers can definitely figure out, okay, how do we want to handle this? How do we want to move forward? But still, we have the same 5 wide receivers. We'll see how that pans out and if they had anyone.
Yeah, I do want to say real quick, I had 6 last time. So when I took out George Pickens, I didn't add anyone else. You did have to actually substitute in someone.
That is correct. Let's go to tight end. 3 players. We both have the same 3. Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and Connor Hayward. What's interesting to me, there's been a lot of people, because Donald Parham, he obviously is done, and there are a lot of people that thought that maybe he could be the guy. I don't know if he would have been the guy even if not, but I did mention the position flexibility of someone like Thomas Jones. Connor Hayward has some position flexibility. There's people out there, though, Dave, that think the Steelers could potentially add a tight end, and I don't know that that's because of the trade rumors with, oh my gosh, what's his name? Jonnu Smith earlier this offseason. What's your takeaway on the tight end position?
Yeah, to me, I don't know that anyone else jumps out that you would say, oh, yeah, they're going to make the roster. That's why, if you keep a fullback, it's kind of like adding another person there. I mean, Connor Hayward was that player last year where they needed a fullback, but he wasn't really a fullback. So to me, this is a position, I wouldn't be shocked if they add somebody else. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. But if where they stand right now, I don't see a reason to keep anybody more than this. But also notice that neither you or I had Parham on this list last time before he was injured.
Yes. I don't know. I feel like Parham, people just looked at measurables. Mm-hmm. They just looked at, well, he's this tall. And But then I kept on saying he wasn't on a roster last year. He was on a practice squad, and that's why he was a free agent. They could sign him when they did.
Yep.
It was just the new shiny toy experiment. And so I always say, everyone loves the new shiny toy, and that's exactly what he was. But tight end, I think they're pretty much set, especially if they can start using Darnell Washington in the passing game more, and then it's not just Pat Freiermuth and some other guys. So
I think they'll keep one on the practice squad.
I agree.
Whether it's someone they have now or they get one off of somebody who's cut from somewhere else to sign to their practice squad, they'll have at least one on the practice. If they only have three, even if they do have the fullback, I think they'll have at least one, if not two, on the practice squad.
All right, so we look at offensive line. That's the next position here, the last one on the offense. You have 9, I have 10, and as I was going through these, I was like, man, I don't, honest to goodness, don't see them keeping 10. But I just can't figure out who they're going to get rid of yet. So I kept 10 for this round of predictions. But Dave, you're 9. Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, Isaac Seumalo, Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson, Ryan McCullum, Calvin Anderson, and Max Sharping. The only person that I have that Dave does not is I also have Dylan Cook. And so I think that it's going to be kind of like a Dylan Cook, Calvin Anderson maybe type role battle for who makes the final spot. But still, what's your thoughts on the offensive line?
Yeah. I've said this before, that the Steelers lost 2 guys from their offensive line in James Daniels and Dan Moore Jr. They had people to replace them. They did. They had the guys to replace those guys. The problem is what they were replacing them with some quality depth that they had. The guys that moved up to replace those guys, they didn't get replaced. Yeah. That's the concern. So, everyone, moves forward up the line, but no one else really came in there to fill in where those other guys were leaving a hole. I honestly was tempted to even go 8. I'm still not convinced that they did. Now, if you only have 8, you've got to have plenty on the practice squad because you have to dress 8 on game day. Yeah, 8 offensive linemen. If you don't, then you lose another roster spot. Instead of 48 active, you can only have 46. So no matter what, they're going to dress 8. And they've done that before. They've gone with this few of 8 on the 53. So that's why I'm like 10, I think, is a luxury. And I don't think it's really that like, oh no, they've got to keep this guy kind of deal. It's like, oh man, we better have enough people around here to cover stuff. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Steelers doing something with offensive line, and what I'm talking about is depth in free agency or trade during training camp. But I've said it before, I think it makes sense to wait because you don't want to cloud the issue with a Mason McCormick or, oh no, the Steelers just signed another tackle. What does this mean for Broderick Jones or Troy Fautanu? You're not wanting to you want these guys to feel like this is you. But at the same time, I do think that it's kind of a bit of a fall off. I mean, I think Ryan McCullum did a nice job at the couple games he played center last year, so that's not a big question. Spencer Anderson, I like him as a backup piece, and mainly because he can cover basically everything but left tackle, and that makes him great. But after that, I mean, Calvin Anderson played really well when he had to come in for Dan Moore in the playoff game, but I remember him coming in for one snap. I can't even remember. Do you remember what game that was? We came in for one snap and gave up a sack.
Oh my god!
They were down at the goal line too, so they had to settle for a field goal.
It wasn't Cleveland, was it?
I just can't. I mean, it's not overly important, but
no.
So as much as I remember, oh wow, he did a nice job in the playoffs. I also think, wow, they called on him for one snap and he gave up a sack in a different game. So that's why I'm not sure there. So this is something. This could be a concerning position group. Last Tuesday, I couldn't believe that my brother put offensive line as one of the top position groups on the Steelers because I'm like, when you look at them, they're just so unproven going into this year that I wouldn't put them as a strong unit when compared to other offensive lines across the league. They can be, but they haven't done it yet.
No, not at all. And that's why I wrote the article for SteelCurtainNetwork.com this weekend saying, is the success of the offense all hinging on the offensive line? I think it is.
I've been saying it for months. Exactly. I think you're exactly right.
Do you know how many they kept last year?
I think it was 9.
Yeah, I think 9's the sweet spot. I think it's going to come down to Dylan Cook. People forget they liked him a lot.
Yeah.
Last year, and he got injured. He hurt his ankle right at the end of training camp, and they were able to put him on injured reserve. I think they put him on the roster. Maybe I don't know.
No, I think he ended up with a practice squad.
Yes.
Because you might even be thinking back to 2 years ago when he made the roster and then was on injured reserve. Last year, I think he was injured but came back to the practice squad. No, you are right. It was last year where he was one of their 2 IR designated to return that they could do before the 53-man roster.
Right.
But then when he was designated to return, they came back, they released him and put him on the practice squad.
Yeah.
So to me, the reason I didn't include him in mine is out of all those names on that list, he's the one who's most likely to be that is both willing and able to go to the practice squad, I guess I would say.
Well, I think what's funny is that when that wraps up the offense, which you had 24, I had 25. What did we spend the most time talking about? The offensive line. That's the most, and that tells you exactly what you need to know in terms of the two of us, what we view as the biggest issue on the offense. So let's go to defense now. We start with the defensive line. We both have 7. We both have the same 7.
No, we don't. It was last time.
Last time we had no. Now we do. You had DeMarvin Leal last time, and you put Isaiah Loudermilk.
You're still missing somebody that I can't believe you don't have.
Yeah, the Daniel
Ekuale.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand the contract stuff. I know exactly what you're saying. But Logan Lee's a drafted player, and I think that means something. And he played next to Wyatt Black, and I don't know.
I have Logan Lee as well, who I don't have that you have. Well, if you want to read him, you can.
Well, go ahead. You can do it.
No, I was just going to say who I have, who you don't, who you have, who I don't have. There, we'll get it right. Yeah. Is Dean Lowry. I have that Ekuale was an upgrade of Lowry. So that's why I don't have him in there.
You're probably right. I think Dean Lowry's that veteran. And again, if you're looking at training camp battles, I think this is one to watch. You have Leal and Loudermilk. That's been for 2 years now. I think Lowry and Ekuale is another one.
Yeah. And
so I think they're going to keep 7. It's just a matter of which 7 are there. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I do. I think that it is, what is it? 5 people fighting for 3 spots if they keep 7.
Yeah.
And that is Ekuale, Lowry, Leal, Loudermilk, and I got to throw Logan Lee in there. He's got no guarantee, but he's one that you and I both have. I swapped out Loudermilk and Leal this time just to make a change because it could really be any of them. Eventually, I'm going to hit a combination that's actually going to end up being who they are. But I don't really want to take Logan Lee out of there right now. I just think he looks like a specimen. So therefore, I want him to work. And like I said, to me, Daniel Ekuale and Dean Lowry are kind of having a guy that's been around for a while. They're kind of redundant. I don't think they need both of them. So that's why I would pick between those two.
I mean, my gosh, I just want whoever's stopping the run. I don't care who it is. DeMarvin Leal, who's maybe put on 15, 20 pounds, sure, whatever. I don't care. If you're the depth, just stop the freaking run. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the outside linebacker position. We both have the same 4. It's been the same 4. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Jack Sawyer. I think the only thing that would change this is if for some reason TJ Watt says he wants out. And that's something you talked about 2 weeks ago in your unpopular opinion. If that is, trade talks are ridiculous unless he says he wants traded, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're just, I don't see the Steelers doing that. It's just not how they treat their players. But if the player asks for it, then they're like, all right, all bets are off. Yeah. Because the Steelers would then they would once again they are interested in doing right by the player. Doing right by the player now is trying to get a contract. If the player says they want traded, you do right by the player that way.
I agree.
But to me, the only question is, do they keep an extra outside linebacker? Do they keep Jeremiah Moon and have 5? Because it's going to be these 4. So that's really the only question that comes outside linebacker.
Yeah, and when you look at the final numbers, this is where you have some position groups like, wow, they kept 6 outside linebackers. Well, no, really, they have 4, and then they have 2 special teamers. So,
yep.
Yeah, and it's the same with the next position group. Inside linebacker. We both have 5. I could see 6 inside linebackers based purely on special teams. We both have the same 5. Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison, free agent acquisition, signed a 2-year deal. Cole Holcomb, who is healthy now. Peyton Wilson, second-year player. Carson Burner, rookie. But then you also have someone like Mark Robinson, who's on the outside looking in. So, Dave, what do you think about inside linebacker?
I think that because I'll go with 5 here because there's 2 possibilities of inside linebacker and 1 possibility of outside linebacker that I'm looking at. And I'm like, so I'll give the extra one to inside. So I just leave 1 off of each group. To me, I mean, they could, if they want to really try to squeeze a roster spot somewhere else. I mean, my goodness, they could only do 8 offensive linemen on 9. That they could do, 6-4 or 5-5 if they wanted to. But I kind of look at it more of Carson Bruner, Mark Robinson, and Jeremiah Moon. Who do you want to keep around? And if 2 of them really stand out, then that's where you have to squeeze somewhere else. Otherwise, and to me, I like keeping the draft pick for now just because it's a draft. Well, I mean, Mark Robinson was a draft pick too. They're both 7th round guys. Why not keep one that you have that's a little bit cheaper and then you have under contract for longer?
Did Mark Robinson get drafted by Omar Khan?
He did not.
So that means that Omar Khan has no loyalty to him whatsoever. So that's another reason why when you start to look at the read the tea leaves, so to speak. But Carson Bruner is also the son of Mark Bruner. There's a legacy factor there. The Steelers love that. It gets their juices flowing. So I think that's our 5. But I could see 6. I could see Mark Robinson say he was a good special teams player last year.
Oh, yeah.
He forced, I think, 2 fumbles down the stretch.
Oh, yeah.
And that's fine. If they got to take from another position to add him and he's that special teams guy, not a problem with that.
We're not looking at it like offensive line, like, all right, you got to keep somebody.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
like, oh, you're going to have to not be able to keep somebody.
Yeah. All right, so then we get into the secondary, and this is where things get a little dicey in a sense. Okay, so cornerback 5. We each have 5. No changes for me. You now match what I had because you have Dante Kent being out. So we have Joey Porter Jr., Slay, big play Slay, not Darius Slay, Corey Trice, Brandon Eccles, and Beanie Bishop. Why did you choose to have Kent out?
All right, it was very simple. I'm keeping an extra player in the secondary. That's why I only have 24 on offense, because I think they need more in the secondary. And last time I did an extra corner and felt kind of weak at safety. This time I'm going in the opposite direction. I'll probably be flip-flopping back and forth between these for the most part as we go through this process. But it's not like I heard anything bad about Dante Kent. I also just didn't hear anything great about Dante Kent either. And I'm like, if they can get it done cornerback-wise otherwise, or are they even going to add one? I don't know if they will or not. So it also kind of depends on, my goodness, if you look at Corey Trice and Brandon Eccles as only outside corners, you have a log jam at outside corner. Somebody there's going to also have to be a possibility at inside.
Yeah.
And if they're all outside, then you've got to keep someone like a Dante Kent, or not keep one of those guys.
Exactly. And so I think, too, it's natural for us to also just talk about safety here, because when you talk about the defensive backfield, you kept an extra player here. You have 5, Minka, Deshaun Elliott, Juan Thornhill, Miles Killebrew, and you kept Sebastian Castro. I kept Castro off. I could see him playing his way on, and maybe someone like Beanie Bishop doesn't make the team, or, there's a million different ways why a player could prove his worth. I don't have him on just yet, but you do. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, I think if you really want to go back to it, I think it's more likely that they keep a 5th safety or a 6th corner rather than a 10th offensive lineman.
I agree.
That's just by thinking of it now. I love that top 3. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, Juan Thornhill. But you have to be concerned if something happens there. Because as I said the last time we did this, Miles Killebrew didn't even play double-digit snaps on defense last year.
Right.
So, and if that's it and that's all, then you're in trouble. Now, they could once again keep their depth on the practice squad. Because to me, like right now, Sebastian Castro, if he's on the 53, chances are he doesn't get a helmet as long as everyone's healthy. You can get by in a game. The problem is long term. So really, they might not go here. I just brought it in because I do think the last spot in the secondary, the way I'm looking at it right now, and I mean, you can look at it a different way. I think it comes down to Kent and Castro. as who's going to show more that they need to be on the 53 rather than the team try to have them on the practice squad.
Yeah. And I agree 100% with what you're saying, especially about the 10 offensive linemen. So you have 26 on defense. I have 25. We both get to 50 in a different way. And then obviously I think this is a nothing burger. Chris Boswell, Cameron Johnston, and Christian Kuntz. Cameron Johnston's getting very good reviews from his rehab from his knee injury last year. Those are the three specialists, which rounds out the 53-man roster. Anything you want to add there, Dave?
No, like I said, I still think I think it's Johnston's job as long as he appears good, and he is appearing good right now. So, but we'll just have to see how that continues to go. I do want to bring up the point of you didn't make any changes on defense. You rolled with the same one.
That's right.
So at least I did a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this real quick about I'm wondering if this is going to be, I think it was 2023 when the Steelers went into camp and they even went into the season with two punters on the roster. If you remember, Braden Mann was on the roster, and it's like everyone thought they're going to trade him. So a lot of people have thought Corliss Waitman, maybe they could trade him. A team needs a punter. He proved himself last year. He had a phenomenal year. I thought he had one bad punt in the snow in Cleveland. He's a proven holder now, something he didn't always have.
And it was his only
resume.
punt in that game.
I know. And so a lot of people are like, oh, Corliss Waitman, they could trade him. Maybe they'll get a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, whatever. The answer is that most NFL teams are going to wait you out. The Philadelphia Eagles waited the Steelers out. They knew they weren't going to go into the regular season with two punters, and so they eventually release him. And what do? The Philadelphia Eagles pick him up, and he's won a Super Bowl ring with them now. So I could see Waitman sticking around for a little bit, and maybe they do find a trade partner, but I could see teams waiting him out too. So, Dave, any final thoughts on the 53-man roster?
Well, I mean, there was a lot that happened with OTAs, but not really a lot for us to really evaluate. I don't know, unless there's significant changes between now and when they start training camp. I wouldn't imagine there'd be much changes to this. But once you get into those preseason games, after each one, then you're going to start to feel a little bit differently about how this roster could change. And it's really funny to go back and look at last year's at this time and where we were off on some of those.
Well, I think also, too, that what makes the Steelers training camp experience truly special is that even the fans that are not at Chuck Noll Field at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, we're able to get really great reporting, not just from the reporters that are there, but also fans that are there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Steeler fans that devote the entire training camp to showing up, reporting what they're seeing, taking videos. The Steelers can't control that. Like, there's no way that they could go around to everyone's phones like, delete that video. And so we kind of get a taste of how these players are performing outside of what the reporters are saying. So when they have their Friday Night Lights at Latrobe High School and you're seeing the backs on backers for the first time, and you're getting a taste. You're getting a look. And so while we go through the motions here of a training camp as we get closer, we are going to learn so much about these players. And like you said, Dave, if you go back and look at last year's, it is comical, some of the things that we thought, but that was before the process truly began in training camp. So we'll see how that goes. But Dave, I want to give you an opportunity to plug what's coming up for you on the podcast side. Anything you want to do there?
Let's see. On the podcast side, we'll have another Scobro show this week. That's when we do our top 5 lists that we do now. Up until training camp, we just come up with various topics and we do a top 5 list. Other than that, I'm just kind of churning through with stuff. Not even sure what we'll have for Pittsburgh Standard Time or who are we previewing this week, Jeff, for the preview. We'll be back live for there Thursday.
Yeah, it'll be the 2 7th-round picks.
Yes.
That'll be who we have this week.
So we have that going on. I'm looking for people that if they want to give me their unpopular opinion for the one this week, I had someone reach out to me with one that is probably going to be the topic for next week.
Good.
Just to say, hey, I feel about this with the Steelers. Most people think the other way, but make a case for this. And that's what that show is that runs on Sunday mornings. So you can go back and listen to the one yesterday, which I talked about how, people that really want to compare TJ Watt and Myles Garrett and some of the arguments, I'm like, you can't make those arguments because they really don't play the same position.
Yeah.
So that was some of the stuff that I got into there. So, and of course, on the written side, I'll be finishing up my series of where PFF talked about the top 32 players in the NFL at each position, and where the Steelers fell on those. I did those last week, and we'll finish those up this week. Jeff and I will get going with our 30 and 30 or 30 scenarios in 30 days. That's rolling up to training camp, and just some other breakdown stuff there. It's, hey, as Jeff says, don't wish it away. Don't wish it away. Before you know it, training camp's going to be here.
It'll be here before you know it. But Dave, I appreciate your time, man. Take it easy, and we'll be talking soon.
All right, thanks, Jeff.